Hello folks, and welcome to my first reasonably big redstone creation video. Today we're going to be looking at my version of a minecart item transportation system. This whole contraption that you see is really meant to take a collection of items from one area, what I refer to as the loading dock, which is what you see behind me here with the fancy indicator lights. It's going to take that collection of items, store it in, throw it into a minecart. When that minecart is either told to be sent out or fills up entirely, it will be sent out on its own, and it's going to go off to another location where the items will be removed from the cart, sorted out, and the empty minecart will be returned back to the loading dock, and that's it. So before I get into the video, I do want to say that there's likely going to be some prerequisite information that you'll need to know, because I'm probably not going to go into that much detail about certain things on here because I've already covered them in earlier videos. So as those points come along in the video, I'm going to try to leave annotations with links to those videos. But I'll say right now, there's at least two videos that would be important. One is my minecart queue video, probably my Rails videos where I just talked about how Rails work. And then the third, which I didn't think I was going to mention, is a video I made about how to make a lever behave like a button and a button behave like a lever. And really, it's that first one that's important, where you take a constant redstone signal and turn it into a short pulse of a redstone signal. Okay, with that said, let's take a look at this thing in action. So let's take a look at what we got here. We've got the loading dock right here, and really quick, I'm just going to show you these indicator lights. These indicator lights represent the minecarts available to be filled. They're basically waiting in the system. And then this indicator light is telling you that there is a minecart available to be filled right now. It's basically ready to be filled by this chest here. And then a couple other things. This one's going to tell you that items are flowing into the cart or waiting to go into a cart. And this is going to tell you if there's no cart available, and we'll go into that when that time comes. And then we got two other buttons here. There's a unstuck button for when we have carts in the queue, but we're being told that there is no cart available. You go ahead and push that button. And if we didn't really want to fill up the minecart, we could just go ahead and push to send it early. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demo the system. I'm going to let you see how it works. And then if you're interested, keep watching, and I'll go into a little bit more detail. And if by the end of this video you guys are still really curious about how to build this exactly, if this video gets enough views and there's enough interest in a build tutorial, I will do a build tutorial. But it's rather complex, and I didn't feel like taking up a whole lot of time in this video to build the entire thing. So we'll see where this goes. Okay, so I'm going to open this chest here. I've got some signs here. I'm going to dump 2 stacks of signs in here, and you can see they immediately start coming out, and they're going into the chest or the minecart below right here. And I'll explain the redstone circuitry later. So they're filling up, and we're getting an indicator light that it's filling, and then eventually it's going to say, whoops, okay, no more items to go into the system. But we don't want to put any more in. We're just going to go ahead and send it early. So there it goes. So it's being sent out. All those indicator lights changed. You see we lost one in the queue. One moved up. And this minecart moved out here. The items are coming out of the chests, going through these hoppers. This would be where you'd put a sorting system. And as soon as it's empty, it's going to get kicked out. There we go. And it's being sent back to the minecart queue, and you'll watch that when it comes right back around, it's going to light up this light right here. There you go. Okay, so how did that work? Well, let's swing around and get a nice big overview of all the redstone. I know it looks crazy, but to be honest, it's really not that crazy. Like I said, if you check out my minecart queue video, you'll understand this section of it. It's really not that big of a deal. It's basically minecarts sitting on detector rails that are closing the slot in front of it, so that when the minecart in front of it moves forward, the one behind it is told that it can move forward, and then the one behind it, yada yada yada, so on up the line. And all I've done is strung some redstone signal coming off of those minecart slots to these indicator lights right here, and that's all that's happening there. And then these indicator lights, all of this zigzag slab stuff, that's just all extension of various bits of the circuit that's going on over here. So really, all of the magic happens in this tight little area right here, and even this arm of it kind of makes it look a little bit silly. It's just the simplest way to do it, I suppose. It probably could be a little bit more compact, but we'll get into that. Okay, so let's talk about probably the most important part of this. And that is we're putting items into this chest. They're going into the minecart. When the minecart fills up, that minecart is sent out. So how do we do that? So we've got the minecart, and first thing that we notice about it is it's on a slant. It's not going down because there's a block in front of it. That block is being put into place by this piston. The piston is extended because this torch is on. And the torch is on because the comparator block is not sending any signal. Comparator block is not sending any signal because it has a full strength comparison signal coming from that guy right there. So it's waiting for a full minecart. Now, just to prove a point that this is attached to the minecart itself, you'll see that we have this detector rail here, and the comparator block is able to read the fullness of the minecart with the chest through that block. So basically, the signal of the fullness of the minecart comes from the minecart into the detector rail. It goes through this block here into this comparator block. Okay? So it's waiting for that minecart to fill up, and when it does, then it'll be allowed to send a signal. The signal shuts off this torch, retracts the piston, and allows the cart to move on its way. It also sends a signal up here, which hits this block and opens the trap door, allowing the next minecart in the queue to move down, which triggers the rest of the minecart queue. All of the carts then move down forward one slot into the system. Okay, so that's the minecart getting sent. So let's assume it's being sent. It goes up this slope here, comes around, does a little wiggle. It will run through its own minecart queue system on the receiving end, and this is just to prevent minecarts from, or basically allow one minecart to be emptied at a time. In other words, what I recommend is however many slots you're setting up in your loading dock, you should account for that in your receiving dock or your unloading dock. So I basically have one slot here for unloading, and then 2, 3, 4. And I have 4 carts in the system over here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so when that minecart is being sent, it comes down through the system. Since all the slots are open, it's allowed to fall right into the last slot here, which is this unpowered rail at the end of the system. I use an unpowered rail for 2 reasons. One, it stops the cart immediately. When it comes off this little slope here, it's going to land on this minecart, or this rail here, and the minecart will stop. The other reason is once we supply power to this powered rail, and since this block is here, it's basically going to kick the minecart out. This is a behavior that I've discussed in my Rails video, so again, if you're curious, go ahead and check that out. So what we're going to do is we're going to power it once we get an empty signal from the minecart. So what we've got here is we got a comparator block, and that comparator block is being pointed at this redstone torch here. Now, when the minecart comes in and starts unloading items, the comparator block will shut off this torch, and basically what you'll get is this signal will become primed. It won't do anything, but it becomes primed, because this is the signal that's basically that lever signal, this constant redstone signal being turned into a pulse of redstone signal. So the torch shuts off, and then when it turns back on, well, go watch the other video to see how it works. Basically, it's going to send a short pulse of a signal to this piece of redstone wire here, which powers the powered rail here for a short bit, which kicks the minecart on its way. The rest of it, I will explain, I guess. This redstone torch here, we also have it feeding power to the trap door right here, which means that once we're emptying a cart, this trap door comes down and basically closes off the first slot, which is the unloading slot, which means the next cart to come down in the system will wait for the cart to be unloaded. Okay, so now pretending that we're watching the minecart, the empty minecart, being kicked out, it would come back on its way and come all the way back to the last slot in the system and wait to fill up. And folks, that's basically it. All the rest of the stuff you see behind here, like I said, it's all just meant to light up the indicator lights, just to give you a little bit more information about what's going on in the system without actually having to see it directly. So the other stuff we got going on here is we have this comparator block coming off of the hopper here, which is filling up the chest. And we're just reinforcing or amping up that signal with a repeater, and that's the signal that lights up this yellow light here, the filling light. So when items are flowing out of this chest into the minecart, that's what this guy's watching. So that's makes sense, right? It's telling you when you're filling items into the system. For these two lights, the minecart available and minecart not available lights, what we're doing is we're taking advantage of this detector rail again. It's transmitting a signal down here, which goes up basically exactly 15 blocks up to the cart available light. And the inversion of that signal, so whenever this wire here shuts off, we send an inverted signal up here to the red light. And that's how we handle that. So those three lights are explained. And then, basically, I just have these torches sitting up top here to power the minecart Q lights. So when these torches shut off, that means there's not a cart in the system. The only time these are ever on is if there's a cart in the slot that it's aligned to. And that's it. Everything else that controls the system is all down here. The one thing I didn't really explain is the unstuck button is sitting on this block here. And that just so happens to be the block where the first trap door is attached right here. So really all it is the unstuck button is just opening a trap door. That's it. That's right next to it. You just can't see it. So it's opening up that first slot there and allowing the minecarts to roll down into the system. And the send early button is just about as simple to describe. Remember, we have this torch here supplying the full strength signal to the comparator block. What the send early button does is allows us to bypass this full strength signal by turning it off. And that's where this happens. So the send early button's on the opposite side of that block. It'll send a pulse of a redstone signal down to this torch, shutting it off for a moment, which basically allows this whole circuit to activate. The piston will retract, we'll open up the next slot. The whole thing basically becomes activated for a moment, and it basically pretends like the minecart is full. But really what it's saying is, let's not wait till it's full. So that's all it is. So there you have it, folks. That's my minecart item transportation system. This works in 1.8, although there's really nothing about it that requires 1.8 to work, or wouldn't require it, I suppose. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you want a detailed build tutorial about how to do it, beyond what I've shown you right here, I will do that if there's enough views and enough interest in it. Otherwise, I'm just going to move right along to other things. And with that, I'll catch you next time. Later, folks.